Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video, the background music was a bit too loud. Sorry for that. In my opinion, it wasn't that bad. I mean, you could hear everything I was saying, but you know, people complained. So this time, no background music, so you can hear everything I'm saying. So today I want to talk about the plugin that everyone knows. It's free, it's open source, it's around for some time, and I also made a video about it back in 2023, so a long time ago. And sometimes it takes a bit of time until you get used to the plugin and how to use it and what kind of situations and you know, how to utilize it in a certain range that you actually accept or that you like. So the spectral compressor is completely free. I put a link in the description below and I show you here an example. So in the background I have some kind of drum bass tune. So let's listen to that. So drum bass and a bit of funk, or funky drum bass, however you want to call it. So the problem here, or it's actually not the problem, but here the situation is we have a drum loop. And the drum loop is a combined drum hit track. So we have a kick drum, we have a snare, and we have hi-hats in there. So it's combined. And we have a bass sound here, right? The bass sound or the sub shares some frequencies with the kick drum. So you can see this also here. This is the kick drum. So lots of low end there, and also here the bass. So right, it doubles then basically here the frequency, and what we want to do is we want to sidechain the bass to the drum loop here. And usually what you do is you just separate the kick drums from the snare drums. So you have a separate kick drum track, and then you can use this kick drum track to trigger actually the sidechaining on the bass. That's what you usually do to get actually precise sidechain. And we can also do this here in Bitwig. We can just put a tool device here on it. And we can't use the node sidechain here, of course. This one, because it needs an MIDI track or a node track as an input to trigger actually this envelope, and then we pull down the volume. So this is not possible because this is a drum loop, it's an audio track, so there are no MIDI triggers or node triggers on that. So we can use here a different one. We can use the audio sidechain. With this we can just feed in the whole audio track of the drums here, and then we can say we want to focus. Let's bring this down here for a moment. We want to focus only on the kick drum down here, right? And then we get here the trigger signal, and you can see it's a slightly curved here in the beginning, a slope, and that's because the kick drum has some upper tones. It has a pitch drop, right? It starts at the top with the pitch and then it goes slowly down. And so the sub is not in the beginning, in the attack phase of the kick drum. There's no sub, the sub comes later. So this is why you have this slope here, which is completely fine. And because you only want to sidechain basically the sub with the sub of the kick. So when in the beginning of the kick drum there's no sub, you don't need to sidechain basically. So this would be completely fine here. So just pull down the volume here. Let's actually put here some kind of, what's the name, O-scope. I used O-scope here for some reason. Right, you can see how the bass goes down here. This is the kick drum basically. We can also bring in here the kick drum or the drum loop. Drum bass post. Right, you can see here is the kick drum, and this is here the bass, which is ducked. In the beginning here we have this small little portion. And some people believe that this needs to be cut out because it's not clean or anything like this. But what you see here is actually not sub frequencies. It's just the pitch drop, the beginning of the pitch drop, right? So the kick drum here in the beginning has upper frequencies, and then it goes in the pitch drop, and then you have the sub here. So here's the sub part. So this is what you need to sidechain actually. So this is not unclean, it's just, you know, it's just the attack phase or the pitch drop of the kick drum. So it's not bad in my opinion. So you can leave this in, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to say that this is here okay to do in Bitwig, but we can also just use here the spectral compressor, this one. So this one works a bit differently. So it takes also a sidechain input. Let's go here, sidechain input, and we use the full drum loop here. And we switch here in the spectral compressor to from pink noise to sidechain matching to sidechain compression. So now it takes the drum loop as an input and tries to duck the frequencies of the drum loop here inside of the bass. So the benefit of this is that you also get with this a sidechain for the snare and the hi-hat. And I kind of find this appealing for some reason, because sometimes I have in drum and bass, I have a lot of overtones. So I have a sub bass, right? And I have overtones, and then I have sometimes some fizzle on top. And you also get into problems when you have the hi-hat kind of masking what the fizzle of the bass does, or vice versa. So you also want a sidechain there for some reason. So I really like to just use here attack 0 ms and release 0 ms. And that's also a very special thing about the spectral compressor. You can use 0 ms for attack and release, which makes this working at audio rate. So every little tail or peak of the kick drum, you know, every little wave thing here is used to duck actually the bass. And this makes it very precise for some reason. So here you pull down the ratio to 500 to 1 for downwards compression. And then maybe we can play around with the global threshold. You can see here the kick drum completely removes here the bass, right? If I just disable this here for a moment, you can see here it's there. So when I enable the spectral compressor, so let's bypass this. So as you can see, we duck here the bass now with the kick drum, with the snare drum, and with the hi-hats. And I kind of overdo this here a bit with the threshold, so we don't need to do this that drastic. You can also play around with the release time, and then you can hear the effect a bit better. And it sounds like this because the release time is much longer than the kick drum sample or the snare drum envelope, or the kick drum envelope and the snare drum envelope, right? So the ducking is much longer than the sound itself. So we basically create some kind of frequency hole where the kick drum is much longer than the kick drum actually is. So there's a hole with nothing to fill, basically. So that's why I like to have the release time pretty slow. So usually kick drums in drum bass for me are around 88 milliseconds long, right? This is a 16 note by when you have 170 BPM, 16 note is around 88 ms, and an 8 note is around 170, 80 ms around that time. So usually using this here very fast release time makes it for me. So this is audio rate, and then you can kind of create some slew or lag here with this and make it a bit more smooth. So I use very short release times and a very fast or 0 ms attack time here for the ducking. And then I play around here with the global threshold. So if you don't like that here the snare drum and the hi-hats are ducking the bass, we can also play around here with the threshold slope or with the curve. At the moment we have it here at pink noise 3 dB per octave, so we can make this pretty straight. which is white noise, or even do something like this, and then we can go up here with the global threshold. You can see only the kick drum here is basically used to pull down the lowest sub. So what I want to say is this spectral compressor is very fast. It works at audio rate speed. So you can make very precise frequency cuts. And it's very well made for ducking frequencies, in my opinion, not only to just compress. So I use this for ducking all the time, and not only for kick and snare and bass sounds. I also use this on pads sometimes. So I have one pad and then I have another pad playing in, right, in the same frequency range. And I put this on here with audio rate speed, and then they kind of cancel each other out, or maybe one lead sound makes room on the other pad sound, and it works very well actually. You can kind of destroy the sound if you use it here in a too drastic way. But as I did here, right, with the release time here, it doesn't make any sense. Right, so with this, we basically completely eliminated the sub, and it never plays the sub because the release time is much longer than actually from one kick to the other kick. So you can destroy the sound if you're not, if you don't pay attention what you actually do with this. But I really like the spectral compressor. It's very raw, so you have to know what you do, like with most things, I guess. But I use it all the time lately for all kinds of ducking or removing frequencies, or like people used to have this, what's the plugin, track spacer. So yeah, I use it basically like track spacer, but this one here is working at audio rate, and it's on a spectral base, so it's spectral dynamics tool, more or less. That's what I want to show you basically. Maybe I give you an example also for pad sounds here. Maybe let's dial this in here first for the sounds too drastic. What you also can do is you can use upwards compression here to bring up some frequencies in the bass that are not there, so you can make an EQ boost. Not too much. Upwards compression can make it sound very destroyed, very fast. But it's possible. So here's another example. I have a lot of pad sounds or a lot of lead sounds playing together. So I take the pad sound here and I put a spectral compressor on it. And I use as a sidechain input here, of course, the synth lead, so the second track. Put this here into sidechain compression mode and a bit of slow attack, slow release. So the pad sound makes room only where this sound is playing and only the needed frequencies. So it's very precise and it only takes the frequencies away you actually are playing on the second sidechain input track. You can even use the spectral compressor in with a lot of multiple instances. So because this is very light on the CPU, you can say, oh, I have actually here a synth lead, but I also hear a second pad sound playing. Or maybe here. So I want to also make room for this sound. So I use a second spectral compressor. I can use also different settings. So here pad 2 post. sidechain and also a bit of ratio here. So in this example, we just could use this here inside of a group and then use the group as a sidechain input. But I want to give you here basically this example that you can use it in multiple combinations. So here it's more like a hierarchy. I say the pads are actually only for the background. I want to have this in the background and fill up some space. And the sounds coming in here, the synth lead or the pad 2, are actually more important at this point in time. So please, pads, make some room for these sounds. So this is what I'm saying. So I can build up here some kind of hierarchy to my track. I say this is not important. It's just in the background. So fill up some space, and when there's something in the foreground, please make some room. And I can use this here in multiple combinations. I can also say here, also make room for the bass or for the drums. And sometimes I put these into different groups, and then I use the groups as a sidechain input. Just how your track needs it at the moment. Here in this example, I don't need any spectral compression at all. It's not needed for this kind of track, just as an example that you can use it actually on pad sounds. But here in this example, it's not really needed, but it also, you know, doesn't do any harm. So here I'm using it on the drums. Same thing, I have the drums here more or less as one group. And yeah, I don't want to separate. I don't want to have a separate kick drum track and a snare drum track just so I can grab the sound or the audio to trigger a sidechain. So here I can have everything combined, and then I use the spectral compressor on it to just duck the right frequencies. So that's how I use it. I want to show you this. I know you probably already know it, and there are a lot of tutorials out there showing you this, but that's how I use it, and it took some time for me to actually find a real nice use case for this plugin, because it's so raw and you can do so much damage so quickly, and it sounds very spectral-ish very fast. So there's no kind of, oh, please combine multiple frequency bins into one, like in DSEQ3. Here you have really every single bin separate, and if you don't pay attention, it sounds very digital, very fast. That's what I want to say. That's for this video. Please leave a like, leave a subscription. Let me know what you think. How do you use the spectral compressor? I would be interested in that. Let me know in the comments. And I hope the audio is not that loud this time. And I see you in the next video. Bye.